The air in the small two-room house in Tupelo, Mississippi, was thick with worry. Vernon Presley paced, his brow furrowed, while inside his wife Gladys was bringing new life into the world. It was January 8th, 1935, a cold and uncertain day. Dr. William Robert Hunt had just delivered their first son, a little boy named Jesse Garin, but Jesse was tiny, fragile, barely breathing. Gladys and Vernon held their breath, fearing the worst. The doctor worked tirelessly, a quiet tension filling the cramped space. Then a miracle. Another cry, smaller but undeniably. There, Vernon rushed back. Another little boy. Dr. Hunt had discovered a second twin nestled deep, hidden from earlier checks. This second baby, though also small, seemed stronger. His cries a little more robust. They named him Elvis. Aaron. In that moment, a quiet joy tinged with lingering fear for Jesse settled over the room. Gladys held both her sons close. Jesse, swaddled tightly, began to show tiny signs of strength. A faint cough, a shallow but steady breath. Elvis, meanwhile, rooted for his mother's breast with surprising vigor. The doctor, relieved, gave his reassurances. Against all odds, both Jesse Garin and Elvis Aaron Presley had made it. The world would never be the same. Life in Tupelo was hard, but it was rich with love. Gladys and Vernon poured all their affection into their twin boys. Jesse, whom they called Jess, grew into a quiet, thoughtful child. He was observant with big, soulful eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. He loved to draw in the dirt with a stick, creating little worlds. Only he understood Eli, as Elvis quickly became known, was the live wire. From the moment he could toddle, he was full of boundless energy, a natural performer even for an audience of one. He'd sing along to the radio, tapping his foot, his small body already swaying to unseen rhythms. Their bond was immediate and profound. They shared a crib, then a bed, their small bodies tangled together in sleep. Jess, the calmer one, often acted as a silent anchor for Eli's whirlwind energy. When Eli would get too boisterous, Jess would gently pull on his shirt, a quiet reminder to slow down. When Eli would fall and scrape a knee, it was Jess who would bring him a rag soaked in cool water, his eyes full of concern. And when Jess felt overwhelmed by the world, Eli was there with a funny face or a silly song to make him giggle. Their differences were clear even then. Eli loved being the center of attention. He'd stand on a stool, clutching a broom like a microphone, belting out gospel hymns he'd heard at church, his voice surprisingly strong for a child. Jess, meanwhile, would sit in the corner, sometimes sketching Eli in action, sometimes just watching a small, proud smile on his face. He found beauty in quiet things. The way the light hit a dusty window pane, the intricate patterns of a spider web, the sound of crickets on a summer night. He had a natural artistic eye, a quiet creativity that manifested in drawings and stories he'd tell only to Eli. Their parents instilled in them strong values, faith, hard work, and above all, family. They didn't have much, but they had each other. Sundays were spent at the Assembly of God Church, where Eli's voice would ring out clear and true in the choir. Just beside him would sing, too, though more softly, his voice blending perfectly with his brother's, a natural harmony. Sometimes, during the sermons, Jess would sketch the preacher or the other churchgoers in his small notebook, capturing their expressions with surprising accuracy. Eli would sneak glances, amazed by his brother's talent. Eli frowned, thinking, like it's not mine, like I'm just copying. Jess put down his pencil. He walked over to the old radio, fiddled with the dial, and found a gospel station. He listened for a moment, then looked at Eli. Maybe you need to feel it here, he said, touching his own chest. Not just hear it with your ears. Make it yours, Eli, like how you make your own drawings. Not just copy a picture. Eli looked at his brother, then at the radio, a spark of understanding in his eyes. He closed them, listened to the gospel music, then started to sing again, but this time there was a different quality to his voice. It wasn't just a copy. It was his. Jess smiled, a quiet triumph in his gaze. Their childhood was a tapestry woven with shared secrets, whispered dreams, and the unbreakable bond of twins. They were two halves of a whole, each complementing the other, each finding strength and solace in their shared existence. Life in Tupelo was simple, but for Eli and Jess, it was an adventure with each new day bringing a chance to explore the world. Hand in hand, two little boys with big hearts, unaware of the extraordinary path that lay ahead. They were just Eli and Jess, brothers, and that was enough for now. The year they turned 13, life in Tupelo took a hard turn. Vernon, ever the hard worker, struggled to find steady employment. The family was poorer than ever, but they clung to hope in each other. One evening, after another meager supper, Vernon cleared his throat. "Kids," he began, looking at Eli and Jess, who sat side by side on the worn sofa. "Gladys and we've been talking. We think it's time for a change. We're moving to Memphis." Memphis. The word hung in the air, a mix of excitement and apprehension. It was a big city, a place of bright lights and bustling streets, a world away from their quiet Tupelo. Eli's eyes widened. "Memphis? Really, Pa?" Jess, ever the quieter one, just nodded slowly, absorbing the news. He felt a familiar flutter of anxiety, but also a thrill of new possibilities. The move was tough. They crammed all their belongings into a rusty old car and drove to Memphis, arriving in September 1948. Their new home was a small apartment in a low-income housing project. It was cramped, noisy, and a far cry from their little house in Tupelo. But they were together, and that was what mattered most. Life in Memphis presented new challenges. Eli, with his distinctive country accent and unusual clothes, found it hard to fit in at Hume's High School. He was sensitive, and the teasing stung. Jess, always observant, saw his brother's pain. While Eli struggled to find his footing socially, he found solace in music. He'd spend hours in his room playing his first guitar, a birthday gift from his parents, singing along to gospel and blues records, imitating the sounds he heard on Beale Street. He poured all his frustrations and dreams into his music. He wasn't as outgoing as Eli, but his quiet nature and artistic eye drew him to the school's photography club. He started carrying a small second-hand camera everywhere, capturing moments, the way the light fell on a building, the expressions on people's faces, the vibrant energy of Memphis. He developed a keen eye for composition and storytelling through images. He would show his photos to Eli, who was always impressed. "That's real good," Jess, Eli would say, a note of genuine admiration in his voice. "You see things nobody else does." Despite their differing interests, their bond remained the heart of their lives. After school, Eli would often practice his guitar, while Jess would sketch or develop photos nearby. They'd talk for hours about school, about their dreams. Eli would often share his musical ideas with Jess. "I want to sing like nobody's ever sung before," Eli would declare, strumming a chord. "I want to mix the blues with gospel, make something new." Jess would listen patiently, sometimes offering a quiet suggestion. "What if you added a little more rhythm to that part, Eli? Make it swing. Or that part about the lonely man, it feels true. Sing it like you really feel it." Jess's input, though subtle, often helped Eli refine his sound. He was Eli's first, most honest critic and biggest cheerleader. One day, Eli was practicing a new song, belting it out with all his might. Vernon, home early from work, looked at Gladys, a worried frown on his face. "He's going to drive the neighbors crazy with all that racket," he grumbled good-naturedly. Gladys just smiled, looking at her sons. "Let him be, Vernon. He's got a fire in him. And look," she gestured towards Jess, who was humming along, tapping his foot. His camera already focused on Eli's passionate face. Jess understands it. Money was always tight. Eli worked odd jobs after school to help out. and Jess picked up photography gigs whenever he could, taking portraits for neighbors or snapping photos at local events. They knew the value of $1 and the importance of family pulling together. This shared struggle, rather than tearing them apart, made their bond even stronger. They were a team always looking out for each other. Eli's frustration with school and his longing for recognition grew. He knew he was different, and he wanted to make something of that difference. Jess understood this yearning. He saw the talent, the charisma, the raw passion that simmered beneath Eli's shy exterior. "You're going to be something, Eli," Jess would tell him sometimes, quietly as they lay in bed at night, the sounds of Memphis drifting in through their open window. "Something big." Eli would just hum, a quiet satisfaction. As the years passed, Eli's musical style began to solidify. He was drawn to the lively energy of Beale Street, soaking in the rhythm and blues. He would practice for hours in his room, sometimes singing so loud the walls seemed to vibrate. Jess, instead of complaining, would often listen, sometimes even recording Eli's practices on a small tape recorder he'd managed to buy, trying to capture the unique quality of his brother's voice. He knew deep down that something special was brewing. One hot summer afternoon after graduation from Hume's, Eli stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his collar, a nervous excitement in his eyes. "I'm going to Son Richards, Jess," he announced. "I'm going to record a demo for Mama." Jess looked up from his darkroom, where he was developing photos. His heart gave a little leap. This was it, the moment they had talked about for years. "I'll come with you," he said, putting down his prints. "I'll take some pictures for Mama, too." Eli grinned, a mix of relief and gratitude washing over him. "Thanks, Jess, I'd like that." And so on that fateful day, two brothers walked towards Sun Records, one with a guitar and a dream, the other with a camera and an unwavering belief in his twin, ready for whatever the future held. The air inside Sun Records was thick with dust and the promise of music. Sam Phillips, the studio owner, was a man who believed in raw talent, in sounds that hadn't been heard before. On that hot summer day in 1953, Eli walked in guitar in hand, a nervous tremor in his fingers. Jess, ever his silent shadow and steadfast support, followed close behind his camera bag. Slung over his shoulder, Eli was there to record a demo, ostensibly for his mother. A birthday gift. He chose two ballads, "My Happiness" and "That's When Your Heartaches Begin." His voice, though still unpolished, carried a vulnerability that was compelling. Jess watched from a corner, quietly snapping photos, capturing Eli's focused expression, the way his hand trembled slightly on the guitar strings. He could feel the emotion in Eli's voice, raw and pure. Sam Phillips wasn't immediately blown away, but he saw something. He made a note of the young man with the unusual voice. He told Eli to come back if he ever found something new. He kept listening to music, country, gospel, blues, trying to find his unique blend. He'd often play his new ideas for Jess, who became his sounding board. "What about this, Jess?" Eli would ask, strumming a blues riff with a gospel feel. "Does this feel right?" Jess would nod, his eyes closed, listening, sometimes suggesting a lyrical tweak or a different tempo. Jess, with his artistic eye, saw the potential in Eli's creative fusions, helping him connect disparate sounds into a cohesive whole. Then, in July 1954, Eli got the call to come back to Sun. Sam Phillips wanted him to try out with some professional musicians, Scotty Moore on guitar and Bill Black on bass. Jess, of course, was there. He sat in the control room, quietly observing. Camera ready. The first few songs didn't click. There was talent, but no magic. Eli was getting frustrated, his shoulders slumping. During a break, Eli, feeling loose and desperate, started messing around with an old blues song called "That's All Right, Mama." He changed the tempo, put his own unique swing on it, and infused it with his rock-cobbly energy. Scotty and Bill, surprised, jumped in, following his lead. Jess's eyes widened. This was it. This was a sound. Sam Phillips, who had been in his office, burst into the control room. "What was that? What are you doing?" he demanded, a wild excitement in his voice. Eli, surprised himself, grinned. "Just mess around, Mr. Phillips." "Well, mess around some more," Sam exclaimed. "That's it, that's the sound." The energy in the studio suddenly shifted. Eli was alive, vibrant, his voice a potent mix of country twang and bluesy swagger. Jess watched mesmerized as his brother transformed from a nervous young man into a magnetic performer, clicked photo after photo, capturing the sheer joy on Eli's face, the intensity of Scotty's guitar, the bounce of Bill's bass. These weren't just pictures, they were historical documents in the making. He knew it in his bones. That's All Right, Mama was released as Eli's first single. The local radio station played it. And then the phone started ringing. People wanted to know who this new singer was. The buzz began in Memphis, then spread like wildfire. Eli, overnight, became the talk of the town. Life changed almost instantly. Eli was suddenly busy with interviews, radio appearances, and local gigs. He was excited, but also overwhelmed. Jess became his quiet anchor. He helped manage the fan mail that started pouring in. He organized Eli's schedule as much as a twin brother could, and he was always there to listen. When Eli felt the pressure mounting, Jess would simply take him for a drive, or sit with him in their small apartment, listening to music, reminding him of why he started. One evening, after a particularly wild gig where fans had mobbed Eli, he came home breathless and a little shaken. "Crazy, Jess," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I never imagined it would be like this." Jess handed him a glass of water. "It's a lot, I know, but you deserve it, Eli. You've worked so hard and you're giving people something they need." Eli looked at him, a genuine appreciation in his eyes. "I couldn't do it without you. You know that you keep me sane." Jess just smiled. "We're in this together, Eli. Always." While Eli's star was rising, Jess continued his photography. He wasn't just taking photos for Eli anymore. He was documenting the birth of a phenomenon. He captured candid moments. Eli laughing with his parents. Eli practicing in the privacy of their home. Eli signing autographs with a shy smile. These were intimate glimpses behind the burgeoning legend, something no other photographer could capture. He was building his own portfolio, a visual diary of their shared journey. The bond forged in their quiet Tupelo childhood was now proving to be an unbreakable strength in the face of sudden fame. Eli had found his voice, not just musically, but in his performance. And Jess had found his eye, not just for a photograph, but for seeing the true heart of his brother and a movement they were unknowingly creating. The spark at Sun Records had ignited a fire, and the twins, linked by fate and love, were ready to face the blaze together. The spark ignited at Sun Records quickly became an inferno. That's All Right. Mama wasn't just a hit. It was an earthquake. Eli's unique blend of blues country and gospel, combined with his electrifying stage presence, was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Suddenly, Eli wasn't just a local sensation. He was a national phenomenon. Tours began, first small regional gigs, then larger venues, spreading across the South, then the entire country. The crowds grew exponentially. "Girls!" screamed boys, copied his slicked-back hair and rebellious sneer. Eli was dubbed Elvis the Pelvis by the press, a nickname he initially disliked, but one that cemented his image as a revolutionary force. Jess was there for almost all of it. He wasn't just a brother anymore. He was Eli's unofficial road manager, confidant, and most importantly, his steady presence. While Eli navigated the whirlwind of fame, Jess managed the practicalities, making sure Eli had clean clothes, calming him down before a big show, and sometimes just sitting quietly with him. When the noise and pressure became too much, he continued to take photographs, capturing the raw energy of Eli's performances, the adoring faces of the fans and the quiet moments backstage. His photographs weren't just snapshots. They were a profound visual narrative of this seismic shift in popular culture. One minute they were struggling in Memphis, the next Eli was on national television shaking his hips and challenging every polite notion of what music should be. The fame was exhilarating, but also isolating. Eli often felt like he was living in a bubble, separated from the real world by layers of managers, bodyguards, and adoring fans. "It's like I'm not even me sometimes," Eli confessed one night after a show where the crowd had nearly rioted trying to get to him. He sat on the edge of his hotel bed, head in his hands. "They don't see Eli, they see Elvis." Jess sat beside him, putting a comforting hand on his shoulder. "They see the music, Eli. They see the power, and yeah, they see Elvis. But I see Eli. Mom and Dad see Eli with us." Eli looked up, his eyes a little watery. "Thanks, Jess, really." Jess just squeezed his shoulder. "Always." The arrival of Colonel Tom Parker into Eli's life was another major shift. Parker, a shrewd and calculating manager, saw Eli not just as a musical talent, but as a marketing goldmine. He began to shape Eli's career with an iron hand, pushing for bigger deals, television appearances, and eventually, movies. Jess was wary of Parker. He saw the Colonel's focus on money and control and worried it would eclipse Eli's artistic spirit. "He's good at what he does," Jess admitted to Eli after a particularly intense meeting with Parker, "but be careful, Eli, don't let him change who you are." Eli nodded, thoughtful. "I know, but he gets me out there, Jess. He gets the music to more people." Jess couldn't argue with that. His brother's dream was coming true on a scale they never imagined possible. Life on the road was a whirlwind of hotels, concert halls, and endless travel. Eli thrived on the energy of the crowds, but he craved quiet moments too. Jess provided the quiet. They'd find a secluded spot, maybe a park bench or a diner booth, late at night, and just talk like they used to in Tupelo. They'd reminisce about their childhood or discuss new song ideas or just complain about the grueling schedule. Jess always had an ear for Eli's worries, a calm voice to cut through the chaos. One evening, while Eli was performing Heartbreak Hotel to a roaring crowd, Jess stood benched, camera poised. He watched Eli command the stage, his voice raw with emotion, his movements fluid and mesmerizing. He felt a surge of immense pride. His brother, the shy boy from Tupelo, was now the king, and Jess was there documenting every moment. He snapped a photo of Eli mid-song, sweat beading on his brow, the mic clutched tight. It was a powerful image capturing the essence of Eli's rising stardom. Sometimes fans would notice Jess. They'd see the resemblance, the shared eyes, the same dark hair. "Are you related to Elvis?" they'd ask. Jess would just smile, a quiet warmth in his eyes. "He's my brother," he'd say simply. He never sought the limelight himself, content to be the man behind the camera, the steady hand supporting the star. He saw his role as helping Eli achieve his destiny, while quietly carving out his own. The rocket had taken off. Eli was soaring, reaching heights no one had before. And Jess, his twin, was flying right alongside him. Not in the cockpit, but as the co-pilot, navigator, and chronicler of the incredible journey. The world had one king, but behind him there was a bond of brotherhood, a shared history, and a quiet strength that made the journey possible. The late 1950s brought an even greater explosion of fame for Eli. He was everywhere, on records, on television, and now in movies. The pace was relentless, and the pressures were immense. Colonel Parker's grip tightened, dictating every move, every song, choice, every film. Eli felt the joy of creation, sometimes slipping away, replaced by the demands of a machine. This period also saw more scrutiny and criticism. Some older generations were horrified by Eli's provocative performances. He was called a menace, a bad influence. The attacks stung. Eli, despite his onstage bravado, was a sensitive soul. He relied heavily on Jess during these times, who acted as a shield and a grounding force. Jess continued to be Eli's unwavering support system. He often found himself arguing with Colonel Parker, trying to protect Eli's artistic integrity or simply ensure he had enough rest. "He's not a machine," Colonel Jess would argue, his voice quiet but firm, a stark contrast to Parker's booming pronouncements. "He needs time to breathe." Parker, seeing Jess as an emotional liability, tried to limit his access. But Eli always insisted on having his brother nearby. Their shared history was their secret weapon. When Eli was feeling lost or overwhelmed, Jess would bring out old photos from Tupelo or tell funny stories from their childhood. He'd remind Eli of the boy who sang into a broomstick the pure joy of making music for music's sake. These moments helped Eli reconnect with his authentic self, the passion that had first driven him. "Sometimes I just want to go back to Memphis," Eli confessed one weary night after filming the movie scene. "Just drive down the highway, stop at a diner, and play for tips again." Jess looked at him, his own eyes reflecting the exhaustion. "We can't go back, Eli, but you can still bring that feeling here in your music. Don't let them take that from you." He showed Eli a candid photo he'd taken during a recent recording session. Eli, head thrown back, lost in song. "That's you, Eli. That's the real king." One pivotal moment came when Eli was struggling with a particular song choice for a new album. Colonel Parker was pushing for a formulaic pop tune, while Eli felt drawn to a more soulful blues number. The tension in the studio was palpable. Eli felt torn, wanting to please Parker but feeling a deep aversion to the song. Jess, who had been observing quietly, stepped in. "Eli," he said gently, "remember what Sam Phillips told you, be yourself. This song," he nodded towards the blues track, "this one feels like you. The other one, it sounds like everyone else." Eli looked at Jess, then at Parker, then back at the blues song. A flicker of defiance entered his eyes. He picked up his guitar. "I'm doing this one," he announced, his voice firm. "This is the one I want to sing." Parker grumbled, but Eli's conviction, backed by Jess's quiet encouragement, was enough to push through. The song became a fan favorite, praised for its raw emotion, proving Eli's instincts right. Jess also started to explore his own artistic path more seriously. While he adored his brother, he felt a need to develop his photography beyond simply documenting Eli's career. He started capturing the landscapes they traveled through, the faces of ordinary people, the textures of life on the road. He found beauty in the mundane, a counterpoint to the dazzling chaos of Eli's celebrity. He even began to exhibit some of his work in small galleries, earning quiet recognition for his unique eye. Then came the draft in 1958. Eli was inducted into the U.S. Army. It was a shock, a sudden pause in his skyrocketing career. The colonel tried to pull strings, but Eli refused special treatment. He wanted to serve like any other American. It was a terrifying prospect for many, but for Eli, it was also a strange relief, a chance to step away from the relentless spotlight. Jess accompanied Eli to Fort Hood, Texas for his induction. Took photos of Eli in his new uniform, looking surprisingly at ease. The separation was hard. For the first time in their lives, they wouldn't be together every day. But they made a pact to write often, to call whenever possible. "You'll be okay, Eli," Jess said, his voice thick with emotion as they said goodbye. "This is just a new chapter, and I'll be here, waiting. Keep that fire burning." Eli hugged his brother tight. "You too, Jess. Keep taking those pictures. Don't let anyone stop you." As Eli boarded the bus, Jess stood watching, a pang in his chest, but also a deep sense of pride. He knew Eli would emerge from this experience, changed, perhaps stronger, and when he did, Jess would be there, ready to welcome him home, camera in hand, ready to document the next chapter of their intertwined lives. The labyrinth of fame was vast, but with Jess, Eli always had a compass pointing home. With Eli in the Army, a quiet settled over the Presley household. Gladys, ever sensitive, struggled with the separation from her boys. Jess, grieving in his own way, took on the role of cheerleader and confidant for his parents. He wrote letters to Eli almost daily, filling him in on life back home, sharing news about music and sending him updates on the photos. This period was also a crucial one for Jess. For years, his identity had been closely tied to Eli's rising star. Now with Eli gone, Jess had space to cultivate his own artistic voice. He enrolled in art classes at a local community college, focusing on photography and even dabbling in painting and drawing. He loved the quiet focus of the darkroom, the way images slowly appeared on paper almost like magic. He started developing a distinctive style. Intimate, real, deeply human. While Eli's world was flashy and loud, Jess's art was contemplative and subtle. He focused on capturing the soul of Memphis, its hidden corners, its music scene beyond the mainstream, the everyday beauty of its people. His photographs began to gain attention in local art circles. He participated in student exhibitions and even sold a few prints. It was a different kind of success than Eli's, but deeply fulfilling in its own way. "You've got a real eye, son," Vernon told him one evening, looking at a framed print of Beale Street Jess had taken. "Just like your ma's eye for beauty." Gladys, though ailing, would light up when Jess showed her his new work. "That's lovely, Jess. You capture the feeling, not just the picture." Her encouragement meant the world to him. Jess also spent a lot of time with Gladys. Her health was failing, and he instinctively knew he needed to cherish every moment. They would sit on the porch talking about Eli, about their family, about the simple joys of life. Captured many poignant photos of her during this time, images that would become priceless treasures. He saw the love and worry in her eyes, but also the deep pride she held for both her sons. When the devastating news came that Gladys was gravely ill, Jess was shattered. He called Eli immediately, who was granted an emergency leave to come home. It was a heartbreaking reunion. Eli arrived still in his uniform, looking strong but vulnerable. He held his mother's hand, tears streaming down his face. Jess stood beside him, a silent pillar of strength, his own heart aching. Gladys passed away on August 14, 1958. The loss was profound. Eli was inconsolable. He had lost his best girl, the woman who had believed in him unconditionally. Jess, though heartbroken, found strength for his brother and father. He helped Vernon navigate the funeral arrangements, comforting him through his grief. He was the one who held Eli as he wept, offering solace and shared sorrow. Their bond, already unbreakable, deepened further through this shared tragedy. They had always been two halves, but now they were two pillars holding each other up. After the funeral, Eli returned to Germany to finish his service. The world felt emptier without Gladys, but the twins found new ways to connect. Their letters became even more frequent, filled not just with news, but with raw emotion, dreams, and memories of their mother. Jess would send Eli prints of his photographs, especially the ones of Gladys, helping Eli feel closer to home. Eli, in turn, would write about his experiences in the army, about the music he was listening to, and how much he missed. Jess continued to pursue his photography, finding a new depth in his work after his mother's passing. He began to explore themes of lost memory and the enduring spirit of the human heart through his lens. He started gaining more significant recognition, with his work being featured in a regional art magazine. He even considered opening his own small gallery studio in Memphis. He wasn't famous in the way Eli was, but he was carving out a respected identity for himself. An artist in his own right, he found joy in his independence, in the quiet satisfaction of creating something beautiful and meaningful. He dated, made new friends, and built a life that was distinctly his. Yet every day, a part of him knew he was connected to his twin. He awaited Eli's return, not just as a brother, but as a witness to the next chapter of their lives. He knew Eli would come back, changed perhaps, even more mature. And Jess too was ready for that return. Having found his own powerful voice in the quiet stillness of his art, he was no longer just Elvis's brother. He was Jesse Presley, artist, and his path, though different, was just as significant. Eli returned from the Army in March 1960. A changed man, more mature, more disciplined, but still with that spark of rebellion in his eyes. Jess was there to meet him, a wide smile on his face, a camera around his neck. The reunion was emotional, a hug that lasted an eternity, full of unspoken words and shared grief for their mother. The world welcomed Eli back with open arms. His career immediately picked up where it left off, but with a slight shift. Colonel Parker pushed him heavily into movie roles, light-hearted musicals, and comedies that, while commercially successful, often stifled Eli's raw musical talent. Eli, feeling obligated and perhaps a little lost after his mother's death, largely acquiesced. Jess watched this new phase with a mix of pride and concern. He was thrilled to have his brother back, but he saw the familiar signs of Eli getting swallowed by the Hollywood machine. He noticed Eli retreating more into himself, seeking comfort in old routines and a small circle of loyal friends. "These movies, they're not you," Eli Jess would say gently, after watching another one of Eli's films. "Where's the fire? The music?" Eli would sigh, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. "It's what the Colonel wants, Jess. It keeps the machine going and it makes good money." He'd look tired, a shadow in his famous eyes. Jess didn't push. He knew Eli had to find his own way, but he remained a constant, quiet presence, a reminder of Eli's authentic self. He'd bring over new blues or gospel records, encouraging Eli to listen, to reconnect with the music that truly moved him. Meanwhile, Jess's photography career continued to flourish. He established a reputation as a fine art photographer, known for his evocative black and white portraits and his stunning landscapes of the American South. He had his own studio and gallery in Memphis, a calm, inviting space filled with his work. He became a respected figure in the local art scene, a quiet success story. His work wasn't celebrity-driven, but it was deeply admired. Their lives, though vastly different, remained intertwined. Eli would often visit Jess at his studio, finding it a sanctuary from the relentless demands of his fame. He'd sit for hours, watching Jess develop prints, listening to the quiet hum of the darkroom, a rare peace settling over him. Jess would sometimes capture Eli in these unguarded moments, a thoughtful profile, a rare relaxed smile, images that truly showed the man behind the myth. In 1967, Eli married Priscilla Bowley. Jess was there, of course, standing proudly by his brother's side as his best man. He genuinely liked Priscilla, seeing the calm and happiness she brought into Eli's often chaotic life. Jess was happy for his brother, hoping this partnership would bring him the stability and love he craved. A year later, Lisa Marie was born, bringing immense joy to the family. Jess, the proud uncle, was often at Graceland, taking photos of the growing family, capturing their private moments of happiness. He felt like his family was finally whole and thriving. He met Sarah, a warm and in-chiefal art historian who understood his quiet, artistic passion. They married in a small, intimate ceremony, and Eli, despite his superstar status, was there, just as a brother celebrating with genuine happiness. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl, who grew up knowing Uncle Eli as a larger-than-life figure, but also as a kind, playful man who loved them deeply. Their conversations evolved. They were no longer just brothers sharing teenage dreams, but adult men discussing marriage, parenthood, and the complexities of life. Jess continued to be Eli's sounding board, offering grounded advice on personal matters rather than just career ones. He helped Eli navigate the challenges of fatherhood, sharing his own experiences. The decade saw Eli's music career stagnate in the public eye, overshadowed by his movie. He still recorded, but the raw edge of his early years seemed dull. He gained weight, struggled with self-doubt, and the isolation of his fame grew heavier. Jess saw the signs, the restlessness, the yearning for more. He gently encouraged Eli to explore new musical directions, to remember his roots. He'd bring over new gospel albums, reminding Eli of the deep spiritual connection he had with that music. "You have to sing what's in your heart," Eli Jess told him one day after a particularly uninspired recording session. "People miss that, they miss you." Eli looked at him, a flicker of something new in his eyes. "You think so, Jess?" Jess nodded firmly. This unwavering belief from his twin, this constant call back to his true self, began to chip away at Eli's complacency. He started to listen more, to think about what he really wanted to do next. Paths of the two brothers had diverged, but their shared foundation meant that eventually they would always find their way back to influencing each other, evolving together, guided by their enduring bond. His movie career had become stale, and his music, while still selling, lacked the fire of his early days. He felt disconnected from his audience, from the very essence of what made him Elvis. Colonel wanted more of the same, but Eli knew he needed a change. He needed to prove himself again. The idea for a television special emerged. Originally conceived as a Christmas show, Eli fought for something different, a raw, intimate performance that would showcase his true musical talent, a return to his roots. He wanted to strip away the Hollywood gloss and reconnect with his fans. Jess, hearing of Eli's growing excitement, was thrilled. "This is it, Eli," he said, his eyes gleaming. "This is your chance to show them who you really are." Jess became deeply involved in the special, not just as a supportive brother, but as a vital creative presence. He worked closely with the show's director, Steve Binder, sharing his extensive archive of candid photos of Eli, images of him practicing, joking, and performing with unbridled passion. "This is the Eli people fell in love with," Jess explained to Binder, gesturing to a photo of a young, intense Eli on stage. "This is the raw talent. Don't smooth it over." He suggested ideas for the staging, advocating for the simplicity of the sit-down segment, where Eli would jam informally with his original band members, Scotty Moore and DJ Fontana. "That's where the magic happens," Jess insisted. "When he's just plain unfiltered, like he used to do in Tupelo." Jess's intimate understanding of Eli's essence proved invaluable. He was a silent, artistic director, guiding the vision towards authenticity. During rehearsals, Jess was a constant presence. He offered subtle suggestions to Eli, a quiet word of encouragement or a shared glance that spoke volumes. When Eli felt nervous or doubted himself, Jess would remind him of their shared journey, of the dreams they'd whispered in the dark nights of their youth. "You've got this, Eli. It's just you and the music like it always was." He also took hundreds of photos during this period, capturing every facet of the comeback. Eli's intense focus during rehearsals, his joy when a musical idea clicked, the relaxed camaraderie with his bandmates. Jess's images perfectly captured the spirit of renewal and determination. He saw Eli coming alive again, shedding the shell of his movie star persona and reconnecting with his true self. The '68 comeback special aired on December 3, 1968. The world was stunned. Eli, clad in black leather, looked powerful, macabre, and dangerous. The true king of rock and roll resurrected. His voice was stronger than ever, his movements electric, his presence mesmerizing. The informal jam sessions were particularly praised, showing a vulnerable, human side to the superstar that had been hidden for years. Jess watched it at home with his family, tears welling in his eyes. He saw not just the superstar, but his brother. He saw the culmination of years of hard work, struggle, and unwavering belief. It was a triumph, not just for Eli, but for their shared vision for the raw talent that Jess had always known was there. The next day, the phones at Jess's studio didn't stop ringing. Everyone wanted to talk about the special. Art critics lauded Jess's recent photo exhibitions, recognizing the deep understanding of his subject evident in his work. He even began to publish photo essays in national magazines, using his unique access to capture the authentic moments behind the legendary figure. His own career took a significant leap forward, not from exploiting his connection, but from the depth and artistry of his perspective. Eli, invigorated by the success, embarked on a new phase of his career. He returned to live performances in Las Vegas, thrilling audiences with his energy and powerhouse vocals. He recorded new music that reflected his renewed passion, blending rock, gospel, and soul with a newfound maturity. Jess often traveled with him for these performances, capturing the magic on stage and the personal moments backstage. Their bond had not only survived the pressures of fame, but had thrived. Eli had his twin as a steadfast anchor, a brother who always saw beyond the image to the man. And Jess, through his quiet support and artistic vision, had helped Eli navigate the labyrinth of celebrity, guiding him back to his authentic self. The world had one king, but that king was undeniably stronger, more grounded, and more true to himself because of the unwavering love and belief of his twin brother. Their shared triumph was a testament to the enduring power of brotherhood. The years rolled on into the 1970s. Eli, now undeniably the king, reigned supreme in Las Vegas and on tour. His voice powerful, his stage presence legendary. He sold out arenas, shattered records, and solidified his place in music history. Yet, beneath the glittering jumpsuits and roaring crowds, the pressures of fame continued to exact their toll. The relentless touring, the demands of the Colonel, and the increasing isolation at Graceland began to weigh on him. Jess, meanwhile, had found his stride. His photography was highly respected, his studio a thriving enterprise. He released several critically acclaimed photo books, often focusing on the hidden beauty of the South and the soulful expressions of its people. His work wasn't sensational, but deeply artistic and meaningful. He was the quiet luminary to Eli's dazzling star, two different kinds of kings in their own right, each ruling their respective domains. Their relationship evolved into a mature, deep brotherhood. They didn't need to be side by side constantly, but their connection was a given. Regular phone calls, shared family meals, and quiet visits to each other's homes were the norm. Jess continued to be Eli's most trusted confidant. When Eli struggled with his health, or felt the weight of his responsibilities, it was Jess he called. "Sometimes I just feel like I'm drowning," Eli confessed one night on the phone, his voice heavy. "So many people wanting so much, and I just want to sing." Jess listened patiently. "I know, Eli, it's a lot, but remember why you started. Remember Tupelo. Remember the broomstick microphone." He would gently guide Eli back to his core, to the pure love of music that had always driven him. "Take a break, Eli. Come down here. We'll just hang out like old times. No music, just brothers." And Eli would. He'd slip away to Jess's quiet home, leaving Graceland and the demanding world behind. He'd spend hours looking through Jess's latest photos, impressed by his brother's artistic vision. They'd sit on the porch drinking sweet tea, talking about everything and nothing, or just enjoying the silence. These were the moments that recharged Eli, grounded him, and reminded him that, beyond the fame, he was still just Eli. The boy from Tupelo with a twin brother who understood him completely. Jess never tried to fix Eli's problems directly, but he offered a space where Eli could be vulnerable, where he didn't have to be Elvis. He helped Eli connect with doctors who could help him, not just with his physical ailments, but with the mental strain of his unique life. He encouraged Eli to spend more time with Lisa, Marie, knowing that family was Eli's true solace. The world never knew the extent of Jess's influence. They saw Elvis the phenomenon, but they didn't see the quiet brother who stood as his anchor. They didn't see the twin who encouraged him to take the '68 comeback special route, who reminded him of his artistic integrity, who provided a safe harbor from the storm of celebrity. One bittersweet memory Jess often cherished was a visit to Graceland in the mid-'70s. Eli, looking a little weary but still with that spark in his eyes, pulled out an old photo album. It was filled with Jess's early, candid shots. Eli singing with his broom, their parents laughing, the dusty streets of Tupelo. "You know," Eli said, a nostalgic smile on his face, "these are my favorite pictures. They remind me of who I am, who we are." Paused, looking at a photo of Jess, sketching quietly in a corner. You were always the one who saw things, weren't you? The quiet observer capturing it all. Jess smiled. And you were always the one who made the noise, Eli. The one who made people listen. They chuckled, a comfortable silence falling between them, filled with decades of shared history, mutual respect, and profound love. Their bond, forged in poverty and strengthened by fame, became their lasting legacy. Eli achieved unparalleled musical heights, but his life was more balanced, less isolated, and ultimately more fulfilling. Because of Jess's constant presence, Jess, in turn, found his own purpose and success, his art enriched by his unique perspective on one of the world's greatest figures. The story could have ended tragically like so many tales of isolated superstars. But in this reality, there were two brothers, two kings, one heart. Eli, the king of rock and roll, and Jess, the quiet king of the lens, both walked their paths with strength and grace, their lives intertwined by an unbreakable thread of brotherhood. Their story became a testament that true success isn't just about fame or fortune, but about the enduring power of family, love, and keeping each other grounded in the truth of who they were. The news of Eli's passing on August 16, 1977, shook the world. It was a moment of profound grief for millions, but for Jess, it was an earth-shattering loss. A part of him whipped away. He had lost his twin, his other half, the brother with whom he had shared every breath since birth. The world mourned Elvis, but Jess mourned Eli. Despite his overwhelming personal sorrow, Jess found strength for his family. He stood by Vernon and Lisa Marie, offering them the same quiet comfort he had given Eli for decades. He was a pillar of quiet dignity during the funeral, his face etched with pain, but his presence a steadying force for those around him. He spoke little publicly, his grief too profound for words, but his eyes, mirroring Eli's, held a silent sorrow that everyone understood. In the days and weeks that followed, Jess retreated to his studio. He spent hours in his darkroom surrounded by prints, by images of Eli through every stage of his life, from the mischievous toddler to the shy teenager, the electrifying performer, the contemplative man. He didn't process new film. He simply looked, remembering, allowing the memories to wash over him. His work, already respected, took on a new, deeper resonance. He was asked to curate exhibitions, to publish retrospectives of his photographs of Eli. These were not just pictures of a superstar, but intimate portraits of a brother, a son, a friend, captured with love and an unparalleled understanding. Jess's photographs became the authentic visual history of Eli's life. Revealing the man behind the legend in a way no one else could, he ensured that Eli's legacy was honored not just for the music, but for the man he was. He spoke to biographers and documentarians, sharing stories that illuminated Eli's generosity, his kindness, his spiritual depth, and his vulnerability. He painted a picture of a human being, not just a celebrity. He also guarded Eli's privacy, fiercely, always protecting the parts of his brother that Eli himself had cherished. Life without Eli was undeniably different. Quieter, the vibrant energy that Eli exuded was gone, leaving a void. But Jess carried Eli's spirit with him in every photograph he took, every story he told, and every quiet moment of reflection. He continued to live a full and meaningful life, surrounded by his own loving family, Sarah, his children, and later his grandchildren. He taught photography, mentored young artists, and kept his studio a place of quiet creation. He saw Eli in so many things, in a gospel melody drifting from a radio, in the way a stranger hummed a familiar tune, in the sparkle of a rhinestone on an old costume displayed in a museum. Most profoundly, he saw Eli in Lisa, Marie in her eyes, her laugh, her passion for life and music. He remained a devoted uncle, cherishing his bond with her, a living link to her father. As the years turned into decades, the myth of Elvis grew. But Jess's photographs and his quiet presence kept the memory of Eli alive and real. He became a guardian of the authentic story, a testament to the fact that even the most famous person in the world could remain grounded through the love of family. Jess lived a long, fulfilling life. He saw his children grow, pursued his art with passion, and quietly contributed to the world in his own unique way. He never sought the spotlight, content to live in the gentle glow of his own achievements and the enduring love of his family. He knew deep in his heart that his own life, intertwined as it was with Eli's, was a testament to the profound power of brotherhood. He often visited Graceland, walking the quiet grounds, imagining Eli there. He'd stand before Eli's grave, not just as a grieving brother, but as a silent communicator. "You did good, Eli," he'd whisper, a tear tracing a path down his cheek. "You truly did. And we did it together." His legacy, though different from Eli's, was just as rich. He was the quiet observer, the grounded, artistic soul who had helped shape the king's journey. He was the brother who lived, who witnessed, who remembered, and who ensured that the world understood that Eli was more than just Elvis. He was a man loved, a man supported, a man who, because of his twin, was able to navigate the extraordinary labyrinth of his life with a stronger, more authentic heartbeat. The world had its king of rock and roll forever enshrined in music history. But for Jess, and for those who knew their story, there was also the king of hearts, the quiet, steadfast brother who made sure that Eli's crown was worn, not just with fame, but with deep love, unwavering supremo. And in their shared story, the world found a heartwarming melody of brotherhood, a symphony of love that truly played on forever.